Yeah,
I don't know. I haven't seen him.
Yeah, he's not with us tonight. So hello, folks. How are you guys out there? I see we've already got people in the chat waiting. We've got DJ Odyssey. We've got Thomas Gilkey. Good to see you guys. Um, Tonight we're down a couple people. Fortunately, Bear is busy. He couldn't make it, and Brian will be out of the loop for a few weeks here because he's looking for employment and he's doing some life stuff. And hello, Lady Mist, and there's my boy Stone Loki. Oh man, the chat is off the charts already. But we have a great four-person panel. Of course, you guys know the lovely, the eloquent Raquel. She is with us again this week. We've got author Stephen Walton, and we've got script doctor, as we do always. So it's good to see everybody. So how's everybody's week going?
I'm exhausted.
You were working a lot. I heard you on the Midnight's Edge stream earlier with a lot of noise going on in the background. What is we were doing over there?
So we have a bunch of manuscripts that are being packed up because we have to print them off for copies to do weight adjustments, and then we send them off to the printer and stuff. So we had to. My coworker decided to use like a warehouse level tape gun to package everything up. It's this really loud thing.
Yeah, I guess.
And then my boss called up like in the middle of the stream asking me for some other stuff. So it was funny, but like it's just office work. So people got to hear that I actually have a phone in my office, which is cool. Nice. I guess.
I'm sad that Brian's not going to be here tonight because I know he was looking forward to this episode. This is one of the best episodes in the first season.
Yeah, this is arguably my personal favorite of the entire first season. So I'm looking forward to talking about it. I'm super excited. So Lady Raquel, how was your week?
It was pretty good. Got a few things done.
Good. Well, we are so glad. Like, you just came in to the lovely cast of this show and you fit in like a glove. So it's great. So
thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, well, the honor is ours, my friend. The honor is ours. So
did your good things this week have to do anything with large Nordic men?
Oh, here we go off the rails already.
Pre-show, we were discussing whether or not there were attractive men on this show on Battlestar Galactica, and I let the gentlemen of the panel know that I did not find any of the men on this show sexually attractive.
Not even Colonel Ty?
No. I mean, Ty.
Colonel Ty.
He's tall. Just throw a wig on him, and he would look young again.
Nope.
Oh man,
I'm pretty sure Ty has saggy bags.
He can Botox that away.
Well, no. The funny thing is, though, it's like I said back in the days when the show was on, and it was the hotness on TV. When I had the original Pegasus actual site still up in the forums going, I mean, we had a large contingent of female members that were nuts over Jamie Bammer, and it seemed like the two biggest ones were always Jamie Bammer and James Callis. So it's like it's just like weird and surprising in a way that like, wow, finally get an opinion because that was like a very minority opinion back in the day when I had the site. There were very few female viewers that said like, none of the men do it for me.
So, yeah, none of the men do it for me. I mean, how tall is Jamie Bamber? I'm thinking 5'6", 5'7".
Yep.
Yeah. Well, hey, there's nothing wrong with short guys. I'm a short guy.
No, there's nothing wrong. Hold on. Someone just knocked on my door just because I can't get any peace when I do a live stream today. So
it's someone trying to sell you toilet paper.
Oh, probably.
Somebody's trying to borrow toilet paper.
Oh, I hope not. Okay. I'm just gonna plug in my headphone for this so I can listen, but I won't be able to talk because my microphone is
your mucus.
I got so much stuff. Okay, I'll be back hopefully quickly.
Loki says he's saggy like his lone eye when he's saying it's in the fracking ship. Oh man, God.
I see DJ's out there. He's got some boxy theories for us tonight.
Yeah, Odyssey's promising boxy theories. Oh my God, this is gonna be like a hoot. This is just gonna be off the hook tonight. I can already tell. So I'm glad that you guys and gals out there in the chat are coming in, and we can just really kind of give you some fun entertainment for a couple hours because honestly, with all the news out there and everybody knows what's going on, and we're not going to rehash it here, but with everything being canceled and stuff lately, we're going to be spending an awful lot of time in the house, so we may as well put it to fun use. So I'm very glad that we can do this little show and maybe give you a couple hours of enjoyment and just celebrate what an actual good science fiction show was. Because they're starting to be very few and far between now.
Agreed.
Oh yes. Oh God. The antithesis of this was the funny thing. Earlier this afternoon, I saw the latest episode of Picard, and I was just like, "Oh gosh," because you watch one, and then you watch the other, and it's like we said before, it's just such a night and day difference, and it's like, my goodness. So I'm so thankful that I waited to watch the Battlestar episode after Picard.
To
cleanse your palate, to cleanse your brain and cleanse your palate.
Exactly.
Also, anyone in the chat who can, you can go to the Sci-Fi website and check out the episode Head of God Season 1 and kind of go along with us as we review it.
Yeah, it is on there, up there for free. Mind you, because we tested this last week to our friends in Canada. Unfortunately, it doesn't work for Canada because Raquel tried to go on there and watch it, and she had issues. It wouldn't let people outside the United States watch it for whatever reason. So, you will have to find different means if you're in Canada. But if you're in the U.S., sci-fi.com has everything up there.
Vimeo has it for free too, I think. Vimeo has it for free, but right now I'm watching it on Amazon Prime. It's included, but Vimeo has it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so we will, I guess, get into the episode, and so we start off where Laura's kind of given a press briefing, and the fleet. We're starting to get into, we've been through the thing with them facing a water shortage. Now we're starting to see that the fleet is facing a shortage of Tilium, which obviously Tilium ore is required for FTL jump, and so they're trying to figure out what to do about that, and so Laura's given this briefing
on drugs.
And then, of course, she gets sidetracked because she starts hallucinating due to the Kamala extract that she's taking for her cancer.
She's tripping on shrooms while having a press conference. What a cool government.
Exactly.
What a cool government, guys. Sorry, go ahead.
And anybody who's familiar with Greek mythology knows that this is important because the Pythia or Pythia usually imbibes some toxic chemicals in order to be able to tell the future, right, for the Oracle of Delphi.
That's
so
right.
this, setting this up because she is hallucinating and she is taking this sacred ancient herb.
Yeah, and it's also,
on a side note, it's also surmised that underneath Delphi there are caves, and within those caves are a toxic fume that would also induce hallucinations.
Yeah, and that they would waif it underneath their noses through the little vent holes and stuff. Yeah, I've heard the same thing, Stephen.
Yeah. Loki said, did anyone buy the big monster Blu-ray set? I got the import box set, but it came with some cool things like a colonial manual and the episode guide. At one time, Loki, I did have the Blu-ray set, you know, and I think a chick I was dating briefly spirited that thing away from me, which kind of ticks me off. But
note to all you single ladies out there: Drew only dates Battlestar Galactica chicks.
but the thing is that I still have from that set is the Cylon figurine that came with it. They had a Centurion that came with it, but
that's cool.
But I mean, it didn't really have a whole lot of anything except for the special features and the different commentaries on the Blu-rays, which you know, honestly, our commentary is probably better than some of the Blu-ray commentary that was on there. But to be fair, you know, there was some cool stuff on there because they did, along with all the episodes, they gave you the plan and Razor and all that, so you got all that stuff with it. And they did have a disc that had the webisodes on it, which was cool. So yeah, that's what you get with the big Blu-ray set if anybody buys it.
Absolutely. So while Rosalind's giving this press conference, she starts, as you were saying, she starts to have these visions due to the Kamala extract that she's on, and you know, I'm sure her body dealing with the cancer that's ravaging her at the moment, and this comes into play later as a part of the Pythian prophecy, which was serpents 10 by 2 or 10 and 2.
Yeah, it was like 2 and 10 or something like that. Yeah, and I think 6 explains it a little more later in the episode. There's a scene where she's explaining the Pythia prophecy to Baltar.
Yeah, all the way at the end.
So no, go ahead, Stephen.
Well, I was just going to say, because he at the end of the episode, he finally embraces he is an instrument of God.
Well, we can't talk about that right now.
I know. He jumped ahead. I'm sorry.
The hand of God, folks. The hand of God.
I'm reeling it in. But yeah, this is where the prophecy aspect, we've had kind of we've had that mystic feel throughout due to the Angelica 6 interacting with Gaius. But this is where it really begins to get a little heavy as far as prophecy is concerned within the series, which is an interesting element to have which really brings the sci-fi aspect of the series and the sci-fantasy aspect of the series together.
So, interestingly enough, the next segment that we have is it cuts to Boomer and Crashdown, and they're in a Raptor, and they're doing a survey mission, which we can see right there in the still. They're doing a survey mission to find Tillium. And what happens is, they're running scans, and eventually, Crash Down like jokingly hit Sam Witwer. He jokingly like hits the screen there and try to get it. I guess a good luck scan, and they end up finding Tillium, but the asteroid that they locate that has Tillium, unfortunately, there's a big swarm of raiders on it, and it looks like the Cylons have a production facility that they clearly show us right before they cut to the show open. So we're set up, and we can see it's going to be no easy task to get in there and get that Tillium.
Mm-hmm.
So,
which brings into question just how far do the Cylons, how far are they out in space? Because they've been running for 36 days now, according to the show clock.
Mm-hmm.
And running away from the colonies, from Caprica, and they encounter a Tillium refinery run by Cylons that far out in space. Had that refinery always been there? Was it just built? Like, we don't know. So how far is Cylon occupied space?
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's one thing that was never, I felt like, really established in the entirety of the series was just how vast Cylon territory was, or what it encompassed. So I'm not sure that we ever really truly got the answer to that question, Stephen.
That's actually the question that came up in my mind when watching it again. I mean, I've watched the series over several times, but now that we're really looking at it, and dissecting it episode by episode, it just made me think, how far is the reach of the Cylons? Like, are they within Cylon space? That's what it would say to me. They're still within Cylon space to have come across a Tillium refinery run by Cylons.
Yeah, and I think also perhaps the authors or the writers are getting together to sort of create this heightened awareness of how machines can be insidious. They're forever propagating, and they're everywhere, and they're inescapable. Kind of like the same feeling you get in the Terminator. It's this relentlessness where they're everywhere, and they seem inescapable, and you have this sort of heightened sense of anxiety. So it could be an authorial tool, but again, Stephen, I think that's you raise a good point. Just how far are they out? Right.
Well, it also clearly shows that the Cylons use some of the same resources that the humans do. Obviously, they use Tillium for fuel as well, and to power their FTL drives too. So, that factors into the mix of, they could be a little bit sizably out, which obviously we know that now that they have control over the former colonies. I mean, they're a bit closer, but remember, this was still pretty far out where the humans are, because when Galactica did the original jump, when the colonies were being attacked, well, this was considered beyond the red line territory.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So the humans are very far out.
Mm-hmm.
So after the show opened, we get into Ty and Adama and Lee. They're having a briefing, trying to figure out just how to go about getting to this thing. So,
of course it did. Right, and which brings into question: are they going to go and do this? Because the first thing that Ty says is, "Well, we can't do it. We're gonna have to look somewhere else." Which is when Admiral Adama just really takes control and says, "No, we're going to hit them."
Yeah,
and we're they need to do this. This is not only a necessity, but it's a tactical decision, because he feels that the Cylons would be unprepared. They would be unsuspecting for an attack after they've been running for so long. And I think at one point he says, when they're explaining the plan, he eventually goes to Kara and asks her to give her input. But he goes, go Go ahead, bud.
During the briefing, Stephen, man, I just thought, and this is just like how those cool Adama moments happen, where they're just going on in the briefing about Ty's like, well, they got enough firepower to keep the place, and Lee's like, yeah, it's a pretty long shot, and Gata's kind of agreeing with that, and then Adama just steps in. It says, "We take the Tillium from the Cylons."
Yeah.
They have to. They have 2 jumps left. That's it. Like your back's against the wall. I mean, there comes a time when you can't take a step back. You have to go on the offensive. So I think he shows his leadership. He just says, "No, we've got 2 jumps left. We have to do this, no matter what it takes."
And it's just such a great delivery all the time by Adama, because it feels impactful when he's just that little piece of dialogue. He steps in and he's basically like, I have spoken. Here we go. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think it's easy to be a coward, and then, but the thing is you're going to die anyway. So it's Tillium or die. So I think it literally is do or die at this point. And so he's, it's tantamount to him yelling, "Courage! Courage, man!"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they've been running for so long now. One of the things that I really enjoy about this episode is that we've had this heightened sense of panic and awareness throughout every episode in the beginning of this season, and they've constantly been on the run, constantly been under threat, constantly having to avoid danger. And this is the episode where Adama turns and says, "No, we're going to confront the danger, get what we need." And it's just by the end of the episode, it's one of it gives you a great feeling if you've been following the series all the way up to this point, because they finally have a win under their belt.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to tell them that yet.
Loki brought up that great line later in the episode that Adama has, and we'll reference that, Loki, but that's a hell of a line. So it's funny, Kara's given this flight briefing, right? And when you get to that part, Stephen, where Kara's given the flight briefing, stop it when it gets to the whiteboard that's behind her, because it shows a picture of the whiteboard. But I want to get that because there's a cool little Easter egg that I want to point out to people. But
cool. Bring the screen down so I can.
Are you talking about the fact that she says radar instead of Dratus?
Well, no, it's not that. There's a little Easter egg.
That is a flaw there. She says, radar, and it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll find it. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a couple frames ahead. But it shows like on the whiteboard. It's explaining how to avoid the Cylon missile system.
Oh, got you. Okay, toward the beginning.
Yeah, it's toward the beginning.
Gotcha. All right, give me a moment.
Yeah, but it's right there. Oh, yeah. Take it back 1 second.
Yeah, I'm gone. Just letting it run through.
Yep. But yeah, you guys are gonna find out that there's a really cool Easter egg in here from a movie that you'll recognize. So we could see in the briefing that Kara's giving, where she's talking about the Cylon's missile guidance systems. And it says defeating the Cylon missile. Number 1, see it. Number 2, put it on your 3 to 9 line. Number 3, use countermeasures. Number 4, turn hard into it. Now, if you guys remember, anybody remember Hunt for Red October?
Yes.
Yes. Nice little Easter egg from Hunt for Red October there. And then for the 5th one, just for emphasis, they put Prey.
Yeah.
So So I thought that was pretty cool, though. I like the fact that they sort of Easter egged Hunt for Red October in there. I thought that was pretty cool little thing, and I like that little touch with the whiteboard. So all right, you can go ahead, Stephen.
And Kara being nice. Kara's actually teaching. The last time we saw her in front of these guys, she was just tearing them apart a few episodes back. But now she's really assumed her role as a teacher. Yes. And so we get to see a more mature Kara Thrace in this scene, which I enjoy. She's such a chaotic character. You never know who you're going to get from scene to scene, depending upon the situation. But she does this. So this episode does altogether show that she
can get her shit together when she can. Needs to.
She has the capability to be a commander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of that little nod, Raquel?
Actually, I don't remember that from the Hunt for Red October, and I've seen that movie 3 times. I'm a huge fan of that movie. I don't remember the turn hard into it. I wish I did.
Yeah, they were doing a crazy Ivan maneuver, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
He turned. The captain turned the submarine into the path of the torpedo being shot.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't arm itself.
Yes. Okay, yes. Yeah, I think it's great. I agree with Stephen. I think it's nice that she's rising to the occasion and that she is acting like a professor and getting everyone ready, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And you could see, again, we've seen the quality of writing from the jump, but again, another good Bradley Thompson and David Weddle episode. Surprise, surprise. Nobody's surprised at this point. So,
the writing is top notch. Whoever created the story outline. I was just explaining this to my son earlier. He was asking me about, you're doing your show again tonight. And then he asked me what the show was about. I said, one of the best sci-fi shows that's ever been produced, because of the forethought that went into a lot of these episodes and characters and the storylines. They knew where they were going with this story. And so you can look at season 1 and pull something out and then see it referenced again in season 2 or 3, or see that thread of that story unfold as you go. And it's just so well done.
I remember when I was watching this scene, the first thing I thought of is the word maturity. We see Starbuck taking on some maturity here. And then, of course, this is juxtaposition to the young bodies that now inhabit those chairs. And this never-ending cycle of having to have pilots and fighters to go out and die so that everyone else can live. You get this sense of, this is serious. These are, these bodies are rotating in these chairs.
Mm-hmm. And the position that she was in, as we've known from earlier episodes, her passing Adama's son when he wasn't ready for it and it costing him his life, her being in that position, having to deal with that guilt. And then also, I don't think that she ever really planned to be in a command role. She's a fighter pilot. That's what she's good at. And so for her to have to evolve, and I think the conversation comes up here shortly, between her and Odama, it's just a few lines where she's saying, when did I have to assume this type of responsibility?
Yeah.
And Odama replies to her, the Cylons didn't ask us before they attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's it's a pretty sobering response. And he's basically telling her, hey, look, it's go time now. So. Oh yeah, that's pretty cool. And so after that little exchange,
I need someone that thinks outside the box. I'm sorry, Drew. I wanted to cut in with that because when he asks her to come and discuss the plan, she asks him why, and he says, "Well, I need someone that thinks outside the box." And Kara says, "I live outside the box." That was a great line.
Yeah.
Well, he wants her to choose something unconventional. He wants a different type of thinking. And we all know Starbuck to be somebody who is a super a risk taker. She takes risks. She's not afraid. You know,
fly by the seat of your pants.
Yeah, and terrifyingly so, where you're sort of just gripping onto your chair, hoping she doesn't, bite it. So
Right.
That's what he's after, right? He's after that type of thinking because he knows what they're going to face.
Yeah. She's definitely the Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
I see Script Doctor took his mute off. Does that mean that you were sold some toilet paper by a shady character?
No, they were wanting to buy some, actually. No, I'm kidding. No, it was just neighborhood.
Hey, got a couple of rolls. Got a couple of rolls, man.
Possibly. Oh, that'd be crazy. No, just there's some neighborhood. We have like a neighborhood watch community, and they're just being cautious about the virus thing. So they wanted to make sure.
Wow, it was about the virus. Wow.
Yeah.
They're like, don't let zombies knock on your door.
No,
Did you call
they were
as soon
basically.
as the person entered the room? Did you go?
No, but I did sneeze. That was really funny.
That is marvelous. I would cough incredibly hard.
Well, no, this is actually a really good community we're in.
Yeah. And then immediately say you think you shit yourself.
You got any of that toilet paper?
Do you have any extra toilet paper?
But right now, like Ontario is doing pretty well for not having a crazy issue with this thing at the moment, and the neighborhood is taking care of people, making sure that everybody's okay. That if they have an issue, they can be people will rally around them to help get them treated and make sure they get properly tested and all that stuff. So
that's wonderful.
We wanted to go there. That's why I live in this neighborhood and not in the actual city, because no one cares in the city.
Yeah. So Script Doctor, we've
I've been listening. I had my earbud in the whole time. So
So what's your take on the little Easter egg that I was talking about, and then the briefing that's
with the hunt for Red October and steering into the torpedoes, as it were.
Yeah.
Good Easter egg. I was kind of hoping that would have been something employed later on in this episode, but it wasn't. Would have been nice to sort of have a little bit of a payoff with that, even though they didn't talk about that part specifically, really, in her briefing, because it was really just focusing on the G-force and your countermeasures and then praying. So it would have been nice if they had maybe Hot Dog or someone do that. But aside from the scene is overall pretty good, because as you guys were saying, she's far more confident in how she's giving her lessons and kind of being more of a mentor figure as opposed to like a drill sergeant. And the scene following this one is quite good, because Adama wants her, because he's like, we're going to come up with a normal battle plan. It's like the stuff that the veterans would do. But we need someone's take us who can recognize what the veterans would do and maybe give us something different, so that the Cylons can't predict what we're going to do.
Oh, wow, man. Odyssey's on it quick.
Can we take a boxy break? Yeah, I was about to ask.
Oh, look at this. Odyssey is on it quick. I'll just let Script Doctor read that, because it's
Boxy theory number 2. Oh, there's a number 1 theory? I didn't see that one.
We'll go back.
We got to find that. Boxy somehow found his way to Earth earlier than anyone else. Set up a corner toilet paper stand in Script Doctor's neighborhood. Neighborhood watch ran him off. They'd be selling for him.
Oh, good God, man.
Was there an earlier one, Drew?
There was an earlier one that Odyssey had. This was the first one.
Okay, Boxy theory number 1, the depressing one. Boxy was actually sent to the Astral Queen, where he was mistaken for dinner. So
we're God, they're already coming.
Well, at least he wasn't late.
Yeah, we just need a Dega to show up, and then we'll be God.
Yeah, Dega came on my stream last night, if I could just segue for a moment. And he is a retired physician. And he is. And so he was saying, guys, take your vitamin D3, wash your hands, and don't stress out, because that suppresses your immune system. And if you do happen to catch the granola, then do some stretches and don't stay still. Move your body around a little bit, and that'll help you all. And that was his advice.
Nice.
I should get him to diagnose my knee. It's been aching for a couple of days now, and I can't go see my actual doctor because they're saying don't go to the doctor.
Don't go to the doctor
unless you absolutely have to.
They're going to tell you. They're going to tell you do an online visit.
They don't have that in my area. You do the over the phone stuff, but they only care about like if you're got the kung flu.
Nice.
Oh my.
Okay, well, so we get back to where it cuts over to the president sitting down with the priestess Alosha, and she's discussing with Alosha that she's doing the Kamala, and you guys can kind of take the rest from there. I'll be right back after bio.
That's fine. I'll segue in. So the priestess is speaking with the president, and she's describing that the visions that she's been having. And priestess says, "Have you been reading the something of Pythica? What was it called? The article, not the article. The scripture of Pythica." And the president says, "No, she has not." Because there's a lot of parallels between what President Roslin is saying and what is in that in the foretelling by Pythica, and that has to do with the serpents, numbering 2 and 10, and the dying leader leading the last of humanity to the promised land, though she will not survive the trip. Mm-hmm. And by the end of the conversation, she looks at President Roslin and asks, "What you're not dying, are you?" And she doesn't answer, but we all know the answer to that at this point.
So it's Pythia, and
thank you.
And it's Cobol. It's Cobol.
Mm-hmm.
For anybody, don't mind me, guys. I was married to a Greek guy for 15 years, and so
that must have stunk.
The Greek stuff matters to me, anyways. But so the Pythia is saying like, wow, she's also a priestess, right, of this Pythia, which is actually Greek for a vessel that contains the future or can contain information that you open up from the gods, right? Mm-hmm. So she's saying, wow, like. This is a prophecy. This is a prophecy. And at first she thinks that she's pulling her leg. And of course she turns around and says, "What are you talking about? I've never read the Cabal."
There's a lot of atheists in this show. if you have
Even though they all comment on the gods.
Well, I suppose it's just as natural as someone saying, "Oh my God," or, any other kind of what would be a blasphemy to someone who's a traditional Christian. I guess it's the same kind of speech because it's so ingrained in their society. It's part of the fabric of their society. But here you have someone who is a member of the clergy, who has studied these ancient texts and believes in them, encountering a situation where, that they're living out one of these prophecies. Yeah. And this is where the fantasy, I guess science fantasy aspect of the show really comes into play, because that is a strong defining pillar of this show. You can enjoy this. You can be a person who enjoys straight science fiction, Space Odyssey adventure, and really enjoy this show, and understand what's being said, what's being presented to you, because the material is well written and put together, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And script doctor.
And what now?
And with the Greek mythology, it's like it's not really seen as a religion so much as, I don't know, like the old stories that they told. So it's not as though modern Greeks believe in it, but it is important because, in the show when they're talking about prey and stuff like that, it's actually not religious. It's based on the fact that the ancient Greek gods believe that if you are ancient Greek people believed that if you prayed to them, you actually gave those gods power, right? So it's not really so much religious as it is, a little classics, a little university classics.
That's really nice. That's a nice insight, Raquel. That's actually how I'm writing my series, my books, is that the more faith you put into, or the more you pray to a deity, the more power that they have.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and you could actually rob the ancient Greek gods of their power by ceasing to give them offerings and to pray to them. So so it's less, it's not really religious so much as it is depicting the ancient Greek mythos, the mythology, and the classics as we know them. So
thank you for that insight.
Yeah, that's wow.
I love this show. I love doing this show.
Came back to the deep. Nice job, Raquel. All right. So where are we at, Stephen?
Okay, well, let's see. After this conversation, we go to back to the planning stage. This time we have Cara helping to add. Lee puts out a plan that's by the book, strategic, and the everyone agrees on it. And then Adama turns to Starbuck and asks, okay, what would you do different? Or what do you think? And she says, well, it's textbook, and that's why it's not going to work. And then asks her input on this plan. To which she uses, she would suggest using 3 different ships as bait to lure out the Cylon raiders, and then bringing Galactica in on the other side of the scene, and then have them launch fighters to then raid the Tillium refinery.
And Adama makes a great point. He said that Starbucks here because she's not weighed down by conventional thinking.
Yeah, once again, and she's willing to be dangerous. Like sometimes she's just a little too scary. She's out on the fringe. She's out on the edge, and he needs that type of thinking. This is going to be high risk. I think they're going in what we know at this point. They're going in 5-1.
Yes.
And so the stakes are high.
And so in such a critical situation, he's willing to put aside conventional thinking because of basically because of the threat that they're under, just even undertaking such a mission. And that's where he leans on and also shows his trust for Cara Thrace in the way that she does things.
Yeah.
And
of course, this is where the mistake happens, right? Because she says radar.
Yes.
And I was like, what are you saying? Stop that. Stop saying radar. Bad girl.
There's no radar in space.
There's no radar.
Haven't you watched Discovery?
No, there's radar in space. There's no sonar in space.
Sonar in space. Yeah, that was it.
They replaced it with sensors, which is more advanced.
Yeah. So there's a little boo-boo. There's a boo-boo.
It's a blooper.
No script supervisor working that day to correct the terminology.
Smack.
Well, you know what? The episode overall is one of my favorite. Now that Raquel has pointed that out to me, it might take it down 1 or 2 notches.
Sorry.
Just 1 or 2 points.
Sorry.
They could have ADR'd that correction.
I trained as an editor, so I find stuff like this, and it's terrible. I know. I'm sorry.
No, hey, look, it's good. It's little fun things like this that brings a nice flavor to this little podcast we got going on, because again, this is stuff that and you guys can appreciate this in chat. I mean, you can sit there with the Blu-ray set, for example, and you can watch the commentaries and stuff, but they don't go over stuff like this.
No.
And that's what's cool about it when you get it from a fan perspective, because you can get so much more out of it, which is awesome. And it makes a fun experience for not only us on the panel, but you guys as viewers, because it's stuff you're not going to get anywhere else. And that's what's fun about it, because this was just such a good show.
it's an outstanding show, and so I hate to find that little tiny flaw. But when you're editing, you're not doing it to attack the writer. You're not doing it to attack the author. You're actually their shepherd. You're there to protect them and make sure that all of the little tiny errors are weeded away and disappeared, so that people can focus on the writing, and that's the job, right? So it kind of sucks that I pointed that out. I do.
Well, no,
I'm gonna hide under my desk now.
No, actually, Raquel, a good thing is, we can kind of point out and chuckle at something as minute as this,
yes,
compared to like the glaring problems that, like, if you watch something like Star
Anti-cloaking scan,
Star Trek Discard.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely don't ever want to detract from this show, because I just absolutely love this show. But what we try to do on this show, I think, is talk about each episode and the quality of writing, and the quality of writing is absolutely outstanding.
Agreed.
And just it's a little hiccup. It's a little whoopsie. Just a little one.
Boxy theory number 3.
Oh, nice. We got another one.
Let's see. Boxy never did leave, but in fact had a quick sex change, and now refers to himself as Callie. Oops, Chief.
Oh, God. Boxy identifies as Callie. Oh, gosh. Oh, no.
What would be the opposite of Boxy if somebody were to change their identity? What would be the opposite of Boxy?
Boxette.
Circular?
Not to be confused.
Tubby.
Sphery. Boxy becomes sphery.
It could be sphery or tubby or
Tubi. Tubi, that's a good one, SD.
Well, look, Boxy theory number 4. Boxy invented space radar.
Oh boy.
Oh gosh. Oh man, we are just on a roll tonight. And speaking of the devil, Adega popped in.
Hail Adega.
So hail Adega, good to see you. So now Odyssey and Adega can go ham and have
oh yeah.
we're gonna have a whole lot more Boxy theories rolling in.
Saddle up, lock and load.
Exactly. So going to more planning, apparently they pull in they're explaining the plan, and Rosalind is standing there during the briefing and whatnot, and because they bring her in because they're going to have to use civilian ships.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut over to the other briefing that's going on, where it's Ty and Kara and Baltar, and they're kind of but they brought him in because they want to try to understand the Cylon perspective, and
he's the Cylon expert.
Yeah, they just say you're the Cylon expert, but no, they're also because he's a scientist and he understands that if there's nukes involved, that it's going to render the Tilium unusable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to try to figure
They try to
expose that.
Yeah, Tilium in its raw form is volatile, so the whole goal is they have to destroy what's been harvested but not refined, so that they can take out the whole facility and then have the asteroid to themselves to mine and refine and use.
Yeah.
And that's the whole purpose and the strategy that they're going there with.
Yeah.
And so then Baltar, of course, goes into daydream mode with Angel 6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hold on. There she is. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready now.
Hello, Steve.
Yeah, and she has that discussion with her about can you give me some insight? He's asking her because he has no idea. He's been basically, as smart as he is, he's been faking his way through almost all of this.
Oh yeah.
And she says, "No, I have no idea what, Tillium refineries with Cylons, have anything to do with this." And to where she then suggests that it's in God's hands, and he says, "Well, is that the Cylon God?" And she says, "God is indiscriminate."
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to put your faith in God, which is hard for him to do because, I mean, by this point, so many crazy things have happened too now, where he has turned his back on God. Angel 6 is God, and it looks like he's about to lose everything or be exposed for the traitor, basically, that he is, and was saved at the last moment by embracing God, her God.
Well,
And
it's definitely a nod to the Golden Age, right? So once again, the authors, the writers, are showing that they definitely know their classics, because we know that when people stopped believing in this pantheon of gods and they stopped believing in mythology, they began to believe in monotheism, right? So it's nodding to the fact that they believe that the Cylons will lead the new age, right? And the old gods will be cast down. So this is more very good writing. This is savvy. This is great. This is intellectual. This is absolutely wonderful. I love seeing this kind of stuff. It's an attention to detail that is seldom seen in television.
And there's like an interesting thing too when he gets out of this conversation with the 6 that's in his head, with the Angel 6, and then it goes back to the briefing, and Baltar actually makes a tactical guess and says, "Okay, this is the target point.
right,
He's there." It's like, okay, and it's very believable, very confident looking. So,
and then he promptly goes and stops, in the hallway, and looks like he's about to throw up. Because he knows he just guessed. He has no idea.
Well, he doesn't know that he guessed, but
he just picked it randomly.
Did he guess, Stephen, or was it the dun 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 hand of God?
I believe it was the hand of God. Being a spiritual person myself, and looking at the narrative of the story, I absolutely believe that it was some kind of divine intervention.
Yeah.
That took his hand, and what we perceive as random was ordained.
Yeah. And then of course he has another interaction with 6 in the corridor.
Yes, he does.
No socks are required for this encounter.
No, they didn't have to slide up and down the board cube. I mean, Battlestar Galactica.
Well played, Stephen.
Nice.
But again, you have this character who no one else can see, only he can see. Could be an illusion, in his mind. He's getting more and more tied into the fact that this is something. That this is something, and he's walking toward the idea of it being from divinity.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very difficult for him as a scientist and as an atheist to grasp that.
Mm-hmm.
And Script Doctor ran out to get more TP.
No, I'm here. I'm just captivated by your voice there, Stephen.
Thank you very much.
Especially your avatar with your voice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, if I had those, I attached to me, I'd play with them all the time.
Yeah, you wouldn't leave the house, I'm sure of it.
Nope, not at all. I'd find a way to make money off it. I'd be a Twitch thought.
Yeah, this is I totally agree. The writing here is it's sensational. Like I said, I'm so shocked that
at the shape of Baltar's nose.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. It looks like a beak, actually. No, just this.
That's just the light effect, but yes.
But the attention to detail in knowing about the classics, and these are definitely people who attended some university classes and know what they're talking about. But this whole idea that that the Cylons are impregnated with this idea that they are going to be the next civilization, and then to see this this turn of events from this pantheon of mythos and mythology, Greek gods, to this monotheism, and the struggle happening within an atheist. It is very intriguing. It's incredibly intelligent, and I just love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. This is why I believe this show is one of the best science fiction shows ever made.
So Raquel, let me get this straight. You love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Hearts, 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 hearts.
So we get into one of my favorite interactions of the episode, and this is where Adama has to break the news to Starbuck that she's not going on the mission. And, you know, this was a thing. This was funny because, ironically enough, you know, we've had the conversation before, Stephen, where, you know, people were, for a while, I know a lot of the TOS people that were angry TOS people at the beginning when this show started. They were like, oh, Starbuck's and Mary Sue. They were using the Mary Sue argument on Starbuck. And I maintained from the beginning, no, she was not. She was actually a pretty original character. And this interaction was one of the highlights that I used to always point out that argument because, you know, you can see that she's raring to go. She thinks she can do it all, but she has limitations. And obviously with rehabbing this injury, she's not 100%. She thinks in her head she can do it. But Adama, in his own way, in a very sly way, in a factual but very sly way, shows her and proves to her, like, hey, look, you're not fit for this mission right now physically. And you know, and he she's obviously in the gym. She's trying to get her knee like to an acceptable level to be able to fly. But you know, he is explaining to her, like, okay, you know, you're on your attack run. You know, you have a split second to evade a missile. You know, you got to pull a 7G turn. And then, you know, he starts adding on weight to simulate. You know, he said you have to be able to jam that pedal into the firewall to do so. And she can't do it. And he's basically, you know, he said, I know that you want to go, but sorry, you know, you're staying home for this one. Yeah, and he lets her know Apollo's leading the strike force. And I thought this was it again shows Adama's leadership in a way, like, you know, he didn't come in and like dress her down or anything else. He used 100% pure factual logic on her.
I also like the fact that it's turning us back towards science. So now, you know, this isn't somebody driving a minivan and dropping the kids off. There is a great deal of physical strength and fatigue involved in being a pilot. Yes. And committing yourself to this mission. So once again, we're seeing this turn back onto the science, and it's wonderful. I think it's great. It gets the viewer thinking, like, wow, you know, it's this takes a lot. This is mentally and physically tasking.
And, you know, the idea, one of the ways that franchises like Star Trek gets around this was the idea of the inertia dampener. And so we find out there is no inertia dampener in the Battlestar Galactica universe. So they are dealing with severe, you know, gravity. Oh God, I can't think right now.
They're dealing with severe force against their body because they have artificial gravity and they have inertia dampeners on their big freighter ships and their capital ships, but it's not technology that can be sized down to the Mark II Viper. So they're in actual planes in space.
Their fighters don't have inertial.
I don't even think the Raptors have it either. So, you know,
yeah, because those ships are way too small to, I guess, accommodate.
But like I said, it's nice to be able to get the viewer thinking about what exactly is transpiring inside of these ships and what it takes to be a pilot. It's not the Love Boat. It's not, you know, getting in the Dodge Caravan and going and picking up some toilet paper from Costco.
Brie Larson is not going to tell you to drop that taco and get in the car, girl.
Yeah.
How dare she waste food?
Ad. What a horrible ad. She looks like she has some type of anemia or arsenic poisoning or something.
That's just called a lot of plastic surgery.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You know, people weren't falling all over themselves. You know, for I mean, the gender swaps in this casting were not made for purposes of to shoehorn in some sort of agenda. Mm-hmm. It wasn't about that. It was about just fresh takes on the characters. There were no, you know, these weren't agenda swaps, and that's what I think people need to understand about this show, is because so many of these now, when you see gender swaps happen, are specifically agenda swaps. These were not. They were very much story related. There was character reasons behind them. You know, characters were built on them, and they weren't. It wasn't like some ham-fisted attempt at you know, being quote unquote, and I'm using air quotes here, inclusive.
Well, it wasn't. The backlash initially really was because the TOS fandom were basically promised and were on the way to getting a continuation from the original series,
sure.
Minus them getting to Earth. So they were promised that. 9/11 happened. The director left. The director writer left and went on to other projects. I think it was X-Men 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you had people that looked at this franchise and said, okay, if we're gonna do this, then we're just going to change it up with the concept of this has happened before and it will happen again, which is also a quote that is in this show, in this episode. And that's what they did. They just, when the swapping that they did, the changes that they made weren't to insult the TOS fandom. It was to create a new incarnation. And they did it wonderfully, in my opinion.
Yeah, and see, the thing was, Stephen, you know, there were even a lot of by season 2, a lot of TOS fans that came around. I mean, there were still hardliners, and to this day, there's still TOS hardliners. And
it broke up friendships. You know, there are people that sold their entire collections. I mean, and turned their back on the series.
And I will find one of those. As a matter of fact, I think Ichibaka is a TOS hardliner.
Yep. Yes.
And I wanna have Ichi on at some point on a non-episode review episode of this show and actually like debate it with him. Mm-hmm. You know, because Ichi's quite an intelligent man, and so he'd have no problem with that, I'm sure.
When I think about watching Battlestar Galactica when I was a kid, and I'm well into my 40s, I think about all of the beautiful women who were on the show. And I also think about things like, Charlie's Angels, The Bionic Woman, Wonder Woman. And I find that this version of Starbuck is reminiscent of that. I don't find her to be a Mary Sue. I don't find her to be a castigating avatar of let's all hate the men. I just sort of accept her as a sort of tougher version of, Cheryl Tiegs or Heather Thomas, where the girls were kind of tomboys and they had feathered hair and they could shoot guns too. I mean, I think that people who forget that you know that we have Alien and that we have all of these women who were tough but still feminine, that should not be a taboo.
Oh boy! Hey, we got boxy theories coming through fast and furious.
Well said, Raquel. By the way. Well
Stephen, I just think that they're. I don't know. I'm going to be in the minority here, especially as a social scientist. But I just don't think that if your aim is to completely change a show so that there are no men in it. I mean, there are just some shows. I'm just going to be honest, where I would prefer that the hero be a guy. I'm not so afraid and so insecure that everything that I watch has to be a reflection of me. I want to be challenged. I want to live other lives. I want to step into other shoes. I want to go and have adventures. And I can't do that if I'm only looking at a reflection of myself. And yeah, that's not feminism. That's narcissism.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyway.
Wow. That's a powerful point.
Anyway, let's.
Raquel's
I'm sorry for interrupting, Drew.
No, you're good.
No, it's all good. Hey, I can appreciate that. This is like I said. This is why you're such a awesome addition to this panel, because your insights are friggin' top notch. I love it.
And since you've come on, we hardly hear anything out of the white guy.
That's right.
So,
we don't need I mean, the only thing I can bring to the scene is the relationship between Adama and Kara. Like, he's there for her benefit at this point, and he trusts her. He's not babying her. He's not sugarcoating anything. He's there to challenge her because he knows she can take it. And then he ends up deflating her own ego because he brings the reality to the fact that she's not. Her spirit may be there, her mind may be there, but due to a medical issue at the moment, she's not ready for this. And why risk putting her in danger when he can keep her here for a fight that might be more useful in the future?
Yeah,
Right.
also an athlete type thing.
He knows he's not going to risk his ace pilot.
No. And honestly, I think because she is one of the people who orchestrated this plan, that he would. I mean, honestly, if she's not going to be in a cockpit, he would want her there.
Yeah, he wants her on the logistics side.
Yeah.
Consulting. And can we just give a nod to the on-set makeup artist for this one? Because I do have to tell you guys that whenever I watch this episode, I've watched it 3 times now, I got to tell you, the close-up on the knee, man, does it ever look gnarly. It's all purple and there are dots all over it. It's so immersive. It's just such high-quality production. You're looking at her knee and you make that hissing sound with your teeth where you're like, ooh.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, all right.
You wanted to segue into boxy theories, didn't you, Drew?
We got number 5 from
DJ
Odyssey.
We got Odysseys, and then Degas came up with a great one.
Dega.
All right, boxy theory number 5. Through a freak mishap, Ranger 3 and its captain William Boxy Rogers was frozen and made it to Earth 500 years late, where unthawed he became a YouTuber named Supreme Nice, Odyssey, nice. All right, so not to be outdone, Adega's come up with one too, and of course,
I think he's got one more.
Adega writes boxy theories the size of the Iliad, man. So boxy theory. It was at an early age that Boxy was the colony's only known psychic. As he grew, his powers increased to an unheard of level. At age 7, he was able to control the minds and lives of people around him. Reading the minds of humans made him disgusted with their thoughts and secrets. To end the perversions of the humans, he contacted the Final Five and used his skills to help them infiltrate the colony leadership.
Damn, Boxy's a traitor.
When the 5 got all they needed from Boxy, they used him as a model for a new Cylon by live dissecting and many nights of probing.
Ooh, ouch. And smelly.
He eventually escaped, but did so with experimental Cylon implants still inside. He now uses those implants for porn videos and digging ditches on Earth.
Oh boy.
God.
Oh boy.
Oh God, we have to go through all of these at the end of the season.
Oh, it's gonna be a
this is gonna be a
long
trip.
stream.
It's going to be a show unto itself. The Boxy
Yep.
Theory show.
Boxy Theory, Season 1 edition.
Yeah.
Oh, God, man, yeah. These are great, man. Leave it to Adega and Odyssey, man. Twisted Minds.
Yes.
All right. So the next thing we get into, Kara and Lee are kind of last minute going over the plan, and
She doesn't trust him. Is what
She's
it comes
envious
down to.
well, she's kind of envious and jealous that he's leading the charge and not her.
Mhm.
I would agree, but I think that's also. I think it has to do with envy, but also that she only trusts herself to get the job done.
Mhm.
And so, with her not out there executing this plan, she doesn't really have any hope in it.
She has
Even
no
though
control over the situation. That's why.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a short scene.
Micromanaging maniac, right? She's a micromanaging maniac.
Control.
Well, there's also that underlying tension too, because she's had that from the jump with Lee, that underlying sexual tension.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
So
from the jump, yeah, at a dinner party with her boyfriend and her boyfriend's brother, ready to get it on. Yes, we remember that.
Yeah.
From the jump, no pun intended.
Yeah, she was ready to jump it from the jump.
Yeah, for sure.
So so there is that too, but there's a lot to it. I mean, I like how complex Lee and Kara's relationship is, because in the end, I mean, they're crazy in love with each other.
Yes. But I mean, there's certain. I think there's just certain walls that go up between them. I think Starbuck's in a position where she doesn't want to allow herself to have those feelings, not only because of Zach and because of what happened with him and how that affects the relationship between Adama, who she looks at as a father figure, and then and then Apollo, who she looks at as she has feelings for. But because I think honestly that she's scared of actually falling in love and being dedicated to a person, and having that weakness. She's a very strong character. Cara Thrace is she does what she wants to do. She feels how she wants to feel, and you get the impression that she does not take on weaknesses very well. And so to fall in love, to admit or to fall and have a relationship with Apollo would be to bring on a weakness. And that's something I don't think she's willing to do.
Yeah.
But that shows how her choices work. Yeah.
That's my impression as well. It's verisimilitude. Now we've got this person who's a high risk taker. And in real life, people who are high risk takers and who are living on the edge and they have to make split decisions and it may be life or death, they're not entirely interested in, having a whole ton of children and getting involved with a man and further complicating their life. You're talking about somebody who's in real life would want to fly solo. Sorry.
Right.
But yeah.
It's not only that, the strength comes from the choices. So she makes the choice to do this, to deny her feelings for Apollo, to remain at a distance because, number one, she likes the thrill of being able to fly by the seat of her pants. But number two, it's the risk of going through that pain again, especially in their situation of wartime, where the odds of any one of these pilots coming back after a mission are very low.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, why put yourself through that because, it's better to have, they always say that it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. But in some cases, there are situations, especially through military, where it's kind of you kind of don't want to have that grief risk, especially if you like get married and you go off to fight a war and you don't come back. You're putting your loved one through a grief that they wouldn't have had they not been with you. But at the same time, you also have to say that it's better to live life to its fullest because you don't know when it's going to end. So that's what you have to reconcile with. And going through that choice for a character, whether it be male or female, is what gives them their strength. It's not how good they are as a pilot, how many Cylons they can destroy in hand-to-hand combat. It's about making those tougher decisions that everyone can relate to.
And it definitely gets the viewer. It's clever writing because it gets the viewer thinking about all these things. The viewer's wondering why they're not just jumping each other's bones and what's holding her back. So it's creating a side story there for us to further explore why she's prickly sometimes and why she has this hesitation to commit or to even indulge herself. Not everybody needs to make love and get married and have a million kidlets. Some people just want to have some sex. So it definitely
right on.
Well, it leads the viewer to go, okay, what's happening here? And so, it's clever writing because now we have a complex relationship.
Okay, Raquel, by the way, since you still got the shiny and new glow to the show, it's your turn. You get to explain the part of the episode of Hilo and Sharon on Cylon occupied Caprica.
Is that the part that we're at right now? I thought that right after this is when we have the Zippo moment, which actually I'm going to be honest. The
Zippo moment's the best part of this.
Cry.
It comes.
Well, you can do both.
It comes after.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because I thought it comes right after Adama meets Thrace at the gym. Then Adama meets with his son on the hangar deck. And
no.
No?
Nope. Yeah, I'm looking at it now. This is back on Caprica.
Are we back on Caprica?
Yeah, with Sharon, who is now starting to display signs that she's pregnant.
Yes.
After one shot too. Jeez.
But the thing is though if you notice the conversation that she and Hilo were having as they're walking into this barn to take refuge, Hilo starts to ask a few questions now. He's like, well, why are we the only ones alive? We've seen all these like different sprawling areas and things like that, but we're the only ones who seem to be alive.
Yeah, it's like the Arby's commercial. Where did everybody go?
And she's explains it away. Well, it's probably the fallout got them or whatever. And
they're in shelters or something. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so they make their way into the hayloft, and then they're getting ready to just chill out, kick back, have a nap, whatever. And then she suddenly gets sick and lurches.
She smells the peanut butter, and it immediately makes her toss her cookies. Because she's pregnant, right? She has morning sickness.
Yeah. So
or so we're led to believe by her tossing her cookies by smelling peanut butter.
Yeah, so that's our first clue that Hilo ain't shooting blanks.
Yeah.
No, but he kind of like knocked her up in one go.
Yeah.
And then groped her the next morning.
He got it done.
Yep.
That's not fun.
He got the strong swimmers, boy.
Yeah, and then they have to take off, right?
Birth control on Caprica does not work. We find that out too.
Well, Hilo's just kind of comforts her, and they agree they should stay there for a little bit. And then it cuts to we're cut to the hangar deck, and then here you go, Raquel. You can explain this.
Get this.
Which part is this here? Oh yeah, this is the best scene of the show.
Yes,
I'm not going to lie. When the follow-up moment happens to this later on in the show, I'm not. Usually, my friends say that I'm a bit of a Vulcan, so I'm not prone to emotionalism. But I get a little misty-eyed on this one. So Adama looks at his son and he says, "My dad used to go into court with this Zippo lighter, and
the wife got him. Yeah.
yeah, and every time he went into court with it, he won, and every time he left it at home, he lost." And this is, of course, indicative of the fact that Adama is terrified that his son is going to be killed on this high-risk mission that has been thought up by the wild and crazy but save-the-day Starbuck. So he takes a look at this lighter and he realizes the symbolism that his dad wants him to, his dad's pulling out all the stops, that he's going to take this lighter as a talisman, this magical amulet that's going to, save his life like it always saved the day for his dad. So he takes the lighter and he reads it. And of course it says Joseph Adama on it. And he says, Dad, you're scared that I'm going to bite it, but I'm going to be okay. And it's very sad.
It is. And he also says, why do I feel like everyone on this thing in this ship thinks that Starbuck should be going instead of me?
Yeah, he does say that. He at this point, he's like, why does everyone think I'm going to fail?
Yeah, he said everybody on the ship thinks Starbuck would do better. And Adama says, I don't. And Lee says, well, how can you be so sure? And Adama says, because my son.
Yes, great line.
And it just as a line that still, it's like you said, Raquel, it's one of the best moments of the entire series.
And it ends on a perfect point too, especially like, Lee's like, I'll bring this lighter back, and he's like, you better, it's a good lighter, and if you don't, I'm gonna kick your butt.
Yeah.
It's like, it's such a dad thing to say because it's so cheeky and it's so like it conveys so much more than what those words actually are.
Yeah, for anybody who's ever had a parent who never recognized their ability, or they never felt like they were good enough for their parent, to have this private moment between two accomplished men, and for his father to be so dignified with him in saying, you know what, I believe in you. Don't think for a minute that I don't believe in you. I do. I love you. And to just, to put the whole weight of the family, that lighter acting as a talisman, it's a wonderful moment for young men, and also for anyone who felt that their parents didn't recognize what they were capable of, or their parents didn't believe in them. It's a very powerful moment, and it's beautiful.
I'm glad that you made that that observation, Raquel, because again, this is so important for young men.
It is,
and this is something that and I can't stress this enough, chat, and I'm sure that you'll agree, ladies and gentlemen out there. The fact of the matter is, this is lacking. You just don't see this in shows right now, especially when it comes to our science fiction. Mm-hmm. It's all the time, condescending towards male characters, making them bumbling fools or villains or things like that. Here you have an uplifting of male characters and bonding between a father and son, and this is so lacking now.
And modeling behavior that is good to see from fathers as well. We see this later on in DS9, where it's very good to have these. Well,
this is a supportive character, because the fact of the matter is that Lee has never once demonstrated that he didn't have his father's approval. Like he's sought after his father's approval, but he clearly has it because he's still here. But at least going through in this scene is he knows he can do it, but he's got an air of self-doubt because of the society around him. He's not part of the Galactica crew originally. Remember, he was a guest here. He's never served with all these people. He's the CAG based on rank and experience, not based on anything else that the other officers would consider that he earned. He's also got that air of nepotism about him, even though he's earned his way up here. But Adama is coming in and saying, ignore all that. I know you can do this, not just because you can do this, but because you're also my son. It's what we do. And to make sure that you're coming back, I'm giving you some extra responsibility, which is this lighter that my father gave me, that his wife, who was his girlfriend at the time, gave him when he was in college at law school. Mm-hmm. And it's been in with our family for so long. And it's a reminder that my father was a better father than what I could have been because I just couldn't do what he did. So this is me trying to sort of mend that relationship with you, and also sort of reinforce the relationship that I had with you when I was still your hero. And that's what it's all about in this scene here.
Yeah, and we need more of this. We need more Ciscos. We need more Adamas.
Yeah.
It's okay to have good Ciscos and nice Adamas, everyone at home. There's nothing wrong with it.
Well, yeah, and that's an important point. And I'd like to invite the chat, give us your thoughts on that, guys, because, I know that you guys have been, for your various YouTube channels and things like that. I know you guys have been watching things like Discovery and Picard and some of the Star Wars stuff and things like that. And male figures like this are missing. And father-son interactions and family interactions are missing.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd like your thoughts and opinions on that, chat, because this is a very important point that we've touched on. And I was hoping ahead of time that we would spend some time on this, because this is very important. And this is
role model behavior.
This is something important for future generations to see, for our children to see as well, because again, it shows the importance of the father and son relationship.
It's also dependent upon.
If you want to improve images of men, perhaps it might be a good idea to create really great characters as exemplifications of what men are capable of in their relationships with others, instead of just deciding that you're going to completely exclude men from the entertainment entirely. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. But
from the perspective, as far as maybe possibly identifying with some of the characters, there's a part in this where Adama says, "I know I wasn't the best father," and there's a silence between them, where they both come to this understanding that that Lee feels like we weren't the best father, but he did love his grandfather. And so for someone like me who's had a rough relationship with my own father, this scene rekindles memories of times when my father and I have had good times, and that we still do love one another, and that we still do share those experiences. And it also makes me feel, as a father myself, how the pride that I have in my sons. My oldest son and I weren't able to have much of a relationship as he was getting older, and we have a great relationship now. And my youngest son, whom I'm raising myself, and I'm putting everything that I can into being a father. So these types of scenes touch people, who are in roles in their lives that relate to that situation, and it gives a deeper meaning to people like me. Yes. So just wonderful writing in this show.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's a beautiful tribute to the show, and I think that's exactly what happens when our cultural exemplars begin to demonstrate positivity and positive images and relationships and examples of what we can be. This is more of this aspirational type of writing, and this shows that it doesn't have to be very cutesy and highly demonstrative. It can actually be complex and nuanced, and you can feel highly involved. This is excellent writing, and I hope it touches young men, and I hope it will inspire fathers to have these fleeting, intimate moments of acknowledgement and mutual understanding and caring and appreciation. It's important.
Agreed. Well said, Raquel. Thank you. So, would you like to move forward, Drew? Unless, Drew found some PP. We get back to Caprica, and we find out as Hilo and the Sharon model there wake up to Caprica 6 leading an army of Cylons to the location, and Caprica 6 is looking right at the barn they're sleeping in, like she knows they're there.
Yeah,
you get, at least I get that impression. To which they start running, and Hilo says, "How they find us so fast? What's going on?" And still Sharon is, we'll figure it out later. She's still not ready to admit what she is to him. And I think that's smart on her part for the survival of Hilo.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. She's in love with him. It's plain to see she's completely in love with him, and now a struggle begins, right?
Mm-hmm.
An internal struggle begins, and what do you trust what she's going to do or what she isn't going to do, and where her loyalties lie. Where do her loyalties lie? This is what every viewer is asking themselves at this point. Will she choose love, or?
It's a pretty agile jump there by Hilo.
Yeah.
Not only that, he landed on his injured leg too. So
tuck and roll.
Yep. We'll get into some more boxy theories here in a second. As soon as we see Sharon jump down into his arms, like, oh my God.
And you know what? I did look for a grope. I did not see one. So good on Hilo.
Yeah. Yep. We've gotten past the gropes. All right.
Now. We've got a few more episodes left in the season where that could be a thing.
Well, they were in a barn, guys. She did lead them into a barn, into a hayloft. I mean, come on.
All right. So Boxy theory number 6. Boxy was not seen because he decided to put all his time into building flying motorcycles, recruiting space scouts. But this didn't last long, and he went back to making Daggett furry porn.
Oh, God.
Wow. I don't know what that is, but I can definitely tell you I don't want to know. I could just tell by the adjective that I don't want to know.
Yep.
All right. Adega says, Boxy theory. Boxy's small size but keen mind got him into trouble with the underworld bosses. They put his size to nefarious activities.
Mm.
He now spends his nights crawling through ductwork in heinous acts of voyeurism.
Oh, God.
He retired a year later, being very wealthy, selling videos to twisted colonists.
Well, you just like pop out of a crawl space and go see somebody and then run away?
Yeah, probably.
Odyssey says, Boxy theory number 7. There is no Boxy. It was really Steven the whole time.
I knew it.
And I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for those damn kids.
Yeah. Adega brought up a very interesting point, and I like his observation from this. He said, it's indicative of the Hollywood life. Most have very poor family experience to draw from, or have an agenda to subjugate the narrative. It's been going on for a while. Ruth Bader Ginsburg wrote some horrible ideas about how life, family, and society should be, and this was years ago.
Well, I've never read those ideas.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
I do know, well, like, there are, okay, so Hollywood is actually kind of normal with the families, at least with the experience I've had. It's usually kind of the head case actors that have the messed up stuff. There's a lot of runaways that go out to Hollywood. You can spot them a mile away.
Really?
They don't usually make it as far as they you'd expect. I think Amber Heard is the most recent one of that generation.
Yeah.
It was a messed up one.
No,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, Lady Miss makes a good point. I don't like how they are making males to look stupid and unable to function.
Well, it's not only that, the women that they're writing aren't look any brighter either. They're just making the men look more dumb, and it's a disservice to both genders.
Absolutely.
There's no. Here's the other part too: is that a lot of the writers that are writing some of the current stuff right now, how they're getting into those positions, usually through networking and favors and whatnot, but they have no concept of wit. They have no concept of personality of their own, and it's very evident in the content that we're seeing, because there's nothing clever about anything going on in these shows.
A great example of that is Michael Burnham, Sneakle Martin Green, probably one of the most likable people to ever see interviewed. Yep. Right, beautiful actress, great personality. They wrote the most unlikable character for her that I think I've ever seen.
Knocked it out of the park, making sure that character was unlikable, because that's what was on the page.
Yeah.
And the other part too is the fact that she's not even being directed well. Because I've seen, Walking Dead, she does some pretty good stuff there.
I loved her in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, like she can act and she has range. But there's this running joke that she comes across as a block of wood, and that's because she's supposed to be acting as a human being Vulcan, but not quite Vulcan. They didn't commit to her upbringing in this show, which it would have been far more fascinating if they made her act emotionless the entire time and not even have to struggle with it, have the complete 180 of what Spock was, given her relationship to them, and play with it that way. Like if she always approached everything with a very logical argument and never was tempted with emotion, you might have something there, and you could probably get away with that sort of monotonous or wooden type of image that would be recognized, that'd be seen at first, but then slowly you'd peel away the layers and see that there's more to her. But that's only in the case if she were written well. But she's not. She always has the answers. She's always right. Every idea that is needed comes up, and she always has every skill needed for whatever situation. It is perfect Mary Sueism. And on top of that, the better,
the fact that we need to come to grips with the fact that it's not a complicated situation what's going on. It's the fact that we have to look to telos. And telos, when we're looking at literary theory and we're looking at comparative literature and writing, we're looking at the purpose or the end goal of why you're writing something and why you're writing the story and what's happening with the story. And I think that if you come to the table with this idea that it's only going to be hegemony, this struggle over social power, I think that comes through in the writing. It just becomes this empty nothingness. It's just these avatars, walking around like zombies, just making sure that they're there to embody
service the one character. Yeah,
or to service the idea. And we don't get any deeper than that. I mean, I tried watching that crap, but when I watched it, I realized that it was just a political implement with absolutely no depth. I can't get into whether or not I think the actress is a good actress or any of that, just because it's all crap. When somebody specifically says to me, look, I'm going to write this show, and the only way that I want this show to happen is if it's modeling the Marvel comic universe. It's like Logan. We make sure that we deal with the fact that I don't like Trump, and we make sure that we deal with the fact that I don't like Brexit. It's like, okay, well, guess what? I'm not watching.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I watching? Like,
because they're trying to explore an idea that's not an idea. That's the thing. Like, you can't have a motivation for social status unless there's something to have a byproduct for it, but they don't have a byproduct for it. Like, they're not writing with that intention. It's just, she's the best. She's the one that we follow. We have to admire and look up to her, but you can't admire a perfect being, because a perfect being has no room for growth. And the one thing that gets us to relate to people is the fact that we all grow up. One of the best arguments for writing for children's programming is to not write for children as if they're children, but to write for children as if they're adults, because every child gets to that point early on in life where they just want to be a grown-up and be left alone to do their own thing. Mm-hmm. And if you show them those characters and you show them in a light where they're actually being mature, being responsible, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, being inspiring, that's going to help shape what they feel are the rules to operate best in society. And they're going to try to live up to those rules and find their own way of interpreting those rules, an own way of developing a personality to work within those rules. And these rules aren't done by some sort of dictatorship or like patriarchy or anything. They're just byproducts of our experiences over the thousands of years of our species interacting with each other. They're inane to us, and sometimes they're not always easy to articulate to younger minds, and sadly in this generation, older minds. So you go through our stories and through our allegory in order to convey those lessons that we think have value. And it doesn't even have to be on a religious section or on a atheist section. It's just, this is our interaction with each other. And we want, in order for us to survive, we have to work together. We'll have conflicts, we'll have disagreements, but there's responsible ways where we can address that, as opposed to a tantrum, or as opposed to putting all our eggs in one basket with one person to take care of us and us not growing as a result.
Yeah. I just think that that everyone spends far too much time talking about Discovery and Picard. I truly believe that it is nothing more than a political hegemony. I don't think that there is any real writing going on here. I don't think there's any real struggle. I'm not even interested in discussing what the characters are feeling or doing, because I just feel like it's just a whole bunch of scenes from other shows being cobbled together in this sort of ugly, piecemeal thing.
Yep.
That's crap.
And on top of that, they don't even understand the political hegemony they're trying to dictate. Because I've watched Picard.
I agree, but if you're an author, the most important thing is the telos, the end goal. What is the purpose of what you of your story? And if the purpose of your story is to agitate society and create that disruptive hegemony, then all you create is discord. You're not actually creating story. So I find that through these transmedia narratives, where that it's just people arguing and fighting on the internet about the show, that suddenly the show gets a pass. And I think that you should be able to write a story that can exist without transmedia narratives. In other words, you should not need a digital feed, a digital interaction, a two-way conversation happening. It should be like Battlestar Galactica. You should be able to look back on the story and say, oh, this is such a rich and wonderful story. There's the end goal. There's so much happening here. I can't wait to see the story unfold. Where the other is just this political agitation that is meant to do nothing more than facilitate transmedia narratives. And I'm just tired of it, and I can't wait for it to be over.
Yeah, but the sad part is that they're trying to be political, but they don't have any understanding of what the political agenda is they're doing, so it actually falls short and just becomes frustratingly incompetent. Because Star Trek Picard brings up these ideas that you think, oh, this is kind of political, but because there's no exploration to it, because there's no understanding of what it is other than that they don't like it, there's no argument for them to support. And it then becomes lazy partisanship, and it's a weak partisanship at that. And it's just completely devoid of value, to the point where, as I've said before, especially with Picard, you cannot define what this show is aside from the fact that it's about a 96-year-old man chasing after a 20-year-old woman.
Yeah, and I agree with you about the political stuff too. I do see nothing but a bunch of paper tigers. From far away, it looks like so much is being accomplished, but when you get close up to it, you begin to interact with it. You realize it's onion paper, and there's nothing.
The rain will wash it away.
Yes, no substance. So
ladies,
it's crap.
Ladies and gentlemen, Raquel and Script Doctor are on fire tonight. Oh my god, I love it.
Sorry, Steven, we're talking.
No, I am enjoying everything.
I mean, this is again, this is why this panel is so compelling, because I think we're getting at the heart of it, folks, and you guys understand in chat, and you guys have been sharing your opinions as well tonight, and I think it boils down to the fact of we know that they can do it. And we can see from things like The Expanse and the Orville that, good writing can still be had. And it's just a matter of it has to make a comeback across the other franchises in the genre. I mean, you know, I would give my eye teeth to see Star Trek be Star Trek again, and Doctor Who be the way that it should be as well. You know, and the quicker that they can dump all these lame, you know, political narratives and stop admonishing people for their views, rather instead of go back to uplifting people and giving stories of hope.
Mhm.
You know, that's what's missing.
Mhm.
You know, we used to always have that hour or so of escape from these franchises that we love, and it's
And you took something positive away from it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a difference between creators and repurposers.
Oh,
You know,
whoa. Can I get you to say that again? Wow. Everybody at home, please listen to what this man just said. What a beautiful phrase. Oh my God, Stephen, hit him again.
it is the difference between creators and repurposers.
yes.
And that comes from Nerdrotic. He's the one who I heard that from. But you have people who, instead of creating something that is inspirational, so a story that is not directly relatable to real world issues, but relatable enough to common themes that you can take something away from it, as opposed to people who repurpose these franchises and present their own material from their point of view, from their skewed point of view, their political or social point of view, and then presenting that material as if it is original, is one of the biggest and one of the most demonstrous things that has happened to entertainment in the last several years.
Mhm.
It's kind of like a similar allegory to Richard Gere's character in Pretty Woman. He like buys a property, deconstructs it, sells it off, and calls it new. And
Right.
basically, what we need to have these people get their Julia Roberts to make them want to build something again.
Well, one thing that's funny, and again, you know, you take Battlestar, for example. You know, Ron Morris Battlestar that we're currently reviewing, and if you look at just the casting, you know, we know now in the age of Twitter, a lot of the people even on this show. I definitely personally don't agree with a lot of them politically. A lot of them are very, very, very hard, you know, progressive, some socialist lefty types. But you know what? That's fine because you know they're in that same herd that so many of the Hollywood pack is at the moment, because they're following the way the wind blows. But it's funny when you look at the writing and the way that they performed, and just the way that this show in general approached social issues. You know, you could tell the direct um, sort of lineage that it had to Deep Space Nine, because it did it in that same way that Deep Space Nine did, where they would explore both sides of a social issue, and it did leave it up to the viewer. And this was back when it was okay. But you know, and CJ's in the chat. Hi, CJ. And CJ just made a really good point. He said, "I think some of these Hollywood types are being blackmailed into saying these things."
At the worst point, yes, but in most cases, again, Hollywood types, especially actors, all they know is acting, and they don't know much of anything else outside of that world. And so they will say whatever they think feels honest and just to something compassionate from their youth that they have as memories for, but not quite fully understand. That's why we have issues where socialism is more often than not conflated with communism, even though in the United States, the definitions for both are kind of the same. It's just really communism with another name. But in Canada and in other parts of the world, it's a bit more complex, and it's a bit less of redistribution and a bit more of just responsibilities of the basic needs, but without robbing people from the opportunity to grow and be better. But like it's a big, complicated mess, and that's also stems back to a lack of education and a lack of encouragement from those who want to seek, say, entertainment jobs, they should be able to be enriched with history, enriched with society, like how people interact and whatnot, instead of what we have now is a whole 2 or 3 generations of talent that are all about in touch with emotions, because that's what's going to be shown on the screen, but no understanding of the impact of what that is, or the relationships of those emotions with others. Look no further than Daniel Day-Lewis, a guy who's a great performer, but he's not a very good actor because he doesn't pay attention to the words he's saying. He performs the hell out of it. You get enraptured with the performance, especially like, I steal your milkshake, or Because It's My Name from Arthur Miller's The Crucible, or My Left Foot. They're all individually on its own fantastic performances, definitely worthy of accolades. But when you listen to what's coming out of his mouth, when you see the relationships on the screen with his characters, he's separated out of that. He doesn't feel a part of that universe in the same way that everyone else around him does. And that's the mentality that a lot of actors had. It's all within their own isolated bubble, and that bubble just happens to be very familiar to everyone else, so they can each interact. And because they don't actually take the effort to learn about what it is they're saying, why it's important that they're saying it, and the context of what it means, we get them spewing stupid stuff on Twitter that they don't fully understand, and perpetuating a narrative that's ignorant and dangerous to those that are of influential minds that admire them.
Well, the bottom line for me that, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I agree with many of the things you said, but for me, like as an academic, whenever I think about didactical writing, I think traditionally we're talking about religious works. We're talking about works that are, 300, 400 years old, that are meant to instruct people, to tell people how to live their lives, and so on and so forth. It's been a very bold move for Hollywood to just decide that everything was going to be didactical. It's kind of crazy. I mean, we sort of laugh when we go back and we're reading, 17th century, 16th century literature. It's like, oh boy, so here they were trying to control people and get people to believe this or to think this, and so reading it sucks the joy out of it, because it's highly demonstrative and didactical. You're not allowed to think for yourself. You're a puppet, and you're told what you need to believe, what you need to think, what you need to feel. And so for me, as an academic, I see this as insane. I don't know when this shift happened, but it's like
2009.
They took a big turn, and they're not turning back, SD. It's like, I expect to see some of this stuff in writing, but it's literally dominating Hollywood now.
It's dominating the popular and the larger intellectual properties. And that has to do with the fact that there is an oligarchy, which is Disney. They have a huge catalog of content that can be easily accessible and distributed to a lot of people, because it markets itself, essentially. When you have smaller studios out there, they are putting out more, not so much traditional, but definitely more thought-provoking works that you never hear of, that is difficult to find, especially with the streaming service and the streaming wars and the limited amount of screens, because larger studios can purchase more screens to show their works on there. So the smaller studios and the smaller films have to struggle to get by in whatever means they have. That's why you have accounts on Hulu, you got Amazon Prime Video, you've got whatever Netflix deal you can get, but Netflix releases so much stuff every day that it all gets buried under its own content. So people then gravitate towards the stuff that's easily accessible, which has got a huge, massive marketing budget behind it. And sadly, the content of what is being marketed is, in some cases very didactical, as what you said. In other cases, it's
how do they even
patronizing and insulting. Yeah.
I find it so insulting. I don't need your instruction. Like, most of these people, they quit school when they were 15 years old, and here they are. I don't know. It's to me, I find it insulting. I can't even imbibe it, because it's just so ridiculous. It's like Hollywood is giving us the little golden book of hegemony and didactical messaging, and
I'll break it down simpler than that, Raquel. It's Hollywood is giving us the finger. They're scolding us because we dare to think freely. So they
don't even think about it that profoundly at all. They don't even care.
So therefore, because we've made decisions for what we thought was our best interest, and it didn't line up with their particular beliefs, they decided, well, we're going to give you the finger. And they're scolding us. This is their version of scolding us.
See, I can understand you can see that perspective, but that's really not on the forefront of their mind at all. It's really not. All they care about is the money, and all they care about is how reputable their work will be a few years from now. They're trying to jump ahead with regards to the direction of where they think history is going, so they don't make regrettable actions that they have done earlier on that they view as regrettable.
So
The
these
other
actions
part,
are. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, the other part is also the institutions with which they teach. Like Raquel, as an academic, she has the freedom to inspire critical thinking within her students. However, in a lot of universities, especially throughout Canada and the United States, especially in California, it's all indoctrination. This is the way it is. You're being they even go out and open their lectures saying you're being brainwashed by the outside world. And here I'm going to tell you how it really is, completely preying on the excitement and the mind-blowing nature of discovering a new world that a student will have. And so what ends up happening is they get so enraptured with the speech that's well rehearsed, has a very cogent argument, that they themselves are getting brainwashed again, thinking that they're being, unbrainwashed or broken free of whatever life they thought was oppressive before they came here. And so they feel that they have to share that revelation to everyone else, but they're too young, too inexperienced to fully understand what is going on, and to really understand that what they're getting is not really a revelation. It's just a very classic form of manipulation through indoctrination. And it's done so with a benevolent intent from the teachers. They think they're doing something right, and they themselves have just bought into their own BS, that they don't realize the ramifications of what they're doing, and they're hurting a massive set of generations of students who would otherwise have come to their own realization during this period of time, and then grown into someone ideally more responsible, as opposed to someone with a political agenda or ideology that they may not fully understand or recognize. So now they become mouthpieces and parroting the works and the thoughts of a teacher or a professor that they admired, because they changed their worldview, instead of understanding why they have that worldview, what that worldview entails, how that worldview could be manipulated to be detrimental, versus how it could actually be used to instill a type of progress that will make things better for everybody else by reducing suffering. They don't get that critical thinking aspect in there. They get the lectures. They are told to believe this and think this way, as opposed to questioning and debating. And that's why you have comedians not doing as many shows at college campuses. That's why you have some teachers that are leaving the private institutions of colleges all on their own, and then setting up online schools or doing books and book tours and whatnot of that nature.
For the record, I believe in the Socratic dialectic.
Yes.
I do not believe in prescriptive teaching. I definitely believe in the Socratic dialectic. I believe that we should entertain
the ideas of debate and explore the potentials. Yeah,
through questioning and unfettered questioning, and evidence.
All righty, man. God, we could go.
And that's what this show, like Battlestar Galactica, kind of does. It lays out an idea to sort of bring it back. It lays out a set of ideas that raise questions. Not so much in this episode here, because it's all about a state of urgency and resources of fuel. But in the previous episodes we've seen so far, they lay out certain questions, especially with the one where they're interrogating the Cylon. How do they go about it? Are they really doing or accomplishing anything? Are they to believe what he is saying, or should they, take a moment to reflect on what motive that Cylon has for saying what they're saying? So just to bring that back.
All right, so let's get back to the scene. So the Galactica jumps in, and this is the start of their plan. They've got they set up the civilian ships where they need to be, and now they're in a holding pattern.
You get a short shot. You get a little shot with Callie. We haven't seen much of her in this series. And Chief, not much of Chief, but they're working on things as they are preparing to initiate their plan. When the Cylons detect the decoy ships, they send out not as many raiders as they had initially planned. Now, rewatching this episode, I kind of forgot it. Like, I remembered the main points of it, but it had been about 2 years, I think, since the last time I watched the series. So when the Strike Team 1 was sent out, and the raiders came from the Tilium refinery, it was oh well, looks like I'm having connection issues. Sorry, guys. When the raiders went after the Tilium refinery and they were overwhelmed, Hot Dog, his wingman, gets destroyed and they're recalled. That is when we find out that there is actually another plan within the plan. And this is, again, an example of Starbuck thinking outside the box, because she foreshadowed that this might not work and that the decoys would not be the main target, that indeed Battlestar Galactica would be. And so all of the other Vipers were hiding on these decoy ships inside large containers, to which they began to attack the Tilium refinery in like a surprise attack. So I thought that was a yay moment for me. I was just very happy to relive that because I had forgotten it. And it also shows just how far Starbuck in her planning thinks ahead unconventionally. It was a good example of her character.
She should hang out with Magnus Carlsen if she can think that many moves ahead. You know what I'm saying? Her chess game is on par.
Interestingly enough, in Strike Force 1, Hot Dog is the strike leader.
Yep.
He's and that's the main force engaging the Cylons.
Yeah, I know. Good old Hot Dog. I like seeing Hot Dog out there.
So
not only that, another thing to add is that although Starbuck did organize the plan with Adama and Lee improvises in the end and pulls off, the actual mission himself. It's something to sort of showcase how no matter how much planning you get, sometimes you'll get new information within your situation and you have to be able to adapt and address it. And Lee has never really been a character that often is established as doing that. So that's why I love the fact that he's talking to himself like, yeah, I can do this, yeah. Hold on. And it's just trying to encourage him that he's got to get through this and think outside of the box, as it were, channel his own Starbuck. Yeah. And it ends up rewarding him and the fleet.
His inner Starbuck.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, Lee, he eventually gets into the base by flying right down one of the conveyor belts. Something that you would not expect Lee to have done. But he just went with it. He took Starbuck's advice. Don't hold back. And that's exactly what he did, and it paid off.
Which is easier said than done, because what we're actually asking somebody here is to, life and limb and reckless abandon. Life and limb, and it's quite crazy that she just put it out there and that he actually had to do it, and then he's got to basically have a little bit of a panic attack giving himself a speech. I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. Yeah. Come on, Apollo. It's crazy.
It was very much and when he finally ends up in the middle of the Tilium refinery, it's just they couldn't get a locking solution on him. And when he finally makes that hit, Baltar is worried the whole time. They keep cutting back and forth to Baltar because he knows he guessed. Like, he doesn't have any confidence in the choice that he made when instructing them on where the unrefined Tilium would be. And when that explosion happens, that's a look of relief, almost the kind of look of relief that he had when Starbuck walked in on him in the last episode.
You mean the sock incident? No. But anyway, yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, because this guy's all about self-preservation. I mean, he's just a parasitic you know, self-preserver, and he's always working towards his own self-interest, and it's so slimy. You got to have a shower every time you see him on screen. He's just doing such a great job. So yeah, he's relieved because, you know, here he is playing both sides, and he's endangering humanity. And then this is when it comes to the hand, dun dun dun, of God.
Well said. All right, and let's see. After that, the celebration, and when everyone's celebrating, Admiral Adama is very stoic. Anyone notice that?
Yeah.
Yep.
He is. Very much so. And I think it's just he knows he's setting the example of, you know, celebrate your victories, but take it in stride, because we're in for a long war.
Yeah. He also gives the dad look. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's starting to realize that this sexual tension is going to amount to something when they're clinking bottles and they're staring into each other's eyes, and you can see all this sexual tension and respect, as well as a healthy little bit of competition. When you see the look on his face and he's giving the world famous Adama stink eye, you realize that he, you know, the cog and wheel are turning. He knows something's up with them, and that it's super intense.
And there's also a moment between Starbuck and President Roslin when they're celebrating, where she hugs her very strongly.
And it's that's what I like to call the my friends that were big time Roslin and Adama fans. That was what we call the Mama Dama and Papa Dama moment, where she, at that moment, she became Mama Dama, and she she basically adopted Starbuck.
Yeah, because she hugs her back. Yeah, after like the shock of, oh my God, this person just hugged me, you know, and then when she allows herself to feel the relief as well, she just turns right back and hugs her. And it's a wonderful embrace between those two characters we haven't seen much interaction from thus far.
Yeah, and it's like, you know, it's also that she finally gets to put her trust somewhere, and it's not just about not being betrayed, but it's also the fact that this person can produce for her. So not only will she not be betrayed, but that this person is inventive, clever, talented. Wow. Okay, so now I have somewhere to put my faith, because I think prior to that she was floundering there, wondering if questioning her own judgment, especially when it comes to guys.
When it comes to Lee, I mean, because she had, that was her connection to understanding the military mind. And then he, after the incident on the I can't think of the name of the ship, the prisoner ship, where Lee kind of stood up for his own, you know, his own judgment and said we need elections and so forth. That kind of shook her confidence in him a bit. Yep.
Everybody wonders who they can trust and who they can believe in, because there is so much at stake. They're just, it's such a heightened state of worry and fear and panic. It never abates. And so, you know, when they crack those bottles, it's literal and figurative relief. You know, here we are, like finally a tiny bit of respite, a tiny bit of breathing room.
And then the wonderful scene to cap off the earlier scene. Drew, could you share my screen just for a moment? Unless he's there, I could maybe do. He's not there. But the scene toward the end where Lee gives the lighter back to his father. You know, you know, that was a wonderful cap off to.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
That's where I got misty, and I'm not usually emotional, but it was just such a powerful moment between a father and a son, and it was just, you know, I don't know if it's because I'm a mom. I don't know, Stephen.
No,
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, wow, you know, there's sometimes where you're just terrified for your kid, and then your kid not only meets your expectations, but exceeds your expectations, and you're just so relieved that not only they succeeded, but they're still alive.
Right.
there is a portion of when your children are growing up where you actually feel that way every time they leave the house. They don't have to be, saving the galaxy.
Yes. Oh, every time my son says I'm going to go play basketball, or he's going to go out into the neighborhood, and I'm like, oh, yeah. There's a trust that you have to put in to the gods.
Well, it's not just a trust in your kid, but a trust in yourself. They did the right thing to make sure that they're going to be okay on their own. I mean, I have 7 god kids, and I helped raise all of them. And the one thing that I learned doing that, and I wasn't like a part-time guy. I was involved like at least 5 days a week. And my girlfriend at the time, who's the godmother, same thing, because these were teenage pregnancies. So, you had to work together in order to help everyone out. But it was the one thing that you kind of realize where you always have that reservation of like, are they going to be okay? But if you do it well enough and then you just let a little bit of slack on that leash go and you see that they're able to handle themselves, you then kind of gain confidence in your own ability to parent. And because you realize, they're listening to the lessons I instilled in them. They're able to take care of themselves. I'll always worry in some regard, but I'll know that like I worry less because I know I've done the best job I could and they're doing the best that they can while they're out there. Because if you're just a constant worrier, you're basically doubting yourself as a parent, like needlessly so. Like if you can't have any faith in the child, if you can't have any pride in the fact that they're able to accomplish things on their own without your assistance, then that reflects more on you than it does on them. And we have a number of generations very much like that right now. So
I know you fast forwarded to the celebration, guys, but can anybody talk about really quick how iconic a moment it was in this series? Like one of the best Viper moments of the entire series when Apollo flew through the conveyor tunnel.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, that was ridiculously awesome.
Yeah, Steven spoke to that a little bit earlier. He just said, it was so uncharacteristic. It was just so, for lack of a better word, ballsy. But
it was just such a badass action sequence.
I'll share my screen for me real quick, Drew. Thanks.
Absolutely love how the ships hover too, Stephen. Like a helicopter. That scene where he just comes out the other end of the pipe and he's just hovering, and then a little bit of hiss comes out of the ship.
Yes, that's just amazing.
Yeah, it's just an iconic scene.
Yeah, I've got to stop it every couple seconds, but so you don't get struck.
Yeah.
Yep, and then he comes to that when he sees the 90-degree angle, and he's like, "Oh my god!" He pulls back.
Yep, he has that oh shit look on his face.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he pulls it off. Yeah, he did it all by instinct. That's exactly what Kara had said to him earlier. Don't hesitate, and that's what she was worried about. That's exactly what he didn't do.
Yeah, he channeled his inner Starbuck.
Yes, he did.
And this is right here, Stephen. Like, it's so cool. Like,
it is.
That brings out the nerd in me in all sorts of ways. I love going on helicopters. Helicopters is such cool technology, and here we have this hovering.
Well, yeah, the Vipers had that unique ability to do that.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's no gravity, at least strong gravity, on that asteroid out there.
No.
It doesn't have much to play with, so I think they're able to have a little bit more maneuverability.
Mm-hmm.
Look at her face. She's like she almost doesn't believe what just happened.
Yeah.
And concentrating entirely. And
is wondering, would I have done that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or would she basically just go head through and try and like maneuver around all the oncoming fire and, be more of a showboat? Like, because even Lee's attempt at that risk is still more cautious than, being a cowboy.
Stephen, look at his face.
Oh yeah.
Like, Stephen, go back. This is what Stephen was talking about earlier, folks. Just watch the look on his face.
Okay. Here we go. Floating scene. Pause. 2 seconds. All right.
I'm kind of glad, like, after a while that Kara got rid of the boycott.
Yeah.
What a piece of shite. Like, what is this person? Is this person even a person?
Well, I think he was kind of hoping that they weren't going to pull it off, so his bluff wouldn't be called.
Yeah.
Such a good actor. Such a
Oh,
slime
yes.
ball.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters and actors in this show. I think I've said it before that if you are able to play a character that I hate, I give you respect for that just as much as for a character that I love, because you've done your job, and he did his job in this show.
Oh yes, he did.
Yeah. But so true that this moment stood out to you, because it didn't stand out to me. Now I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, just pure slime ball, right? Like, oh boy.
Yeah. It was the thing with this was like, it was just he was so he was so like, wait, it did it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the look on Lee, he's just, it's not even that he didn't believe in himself. There's none of those conflicting emotions. It's the job. He is in the moment.
Yeah.
And it really speaks to his ability.
Yeah.
Look at him. He's just, that's it.
Yeah, he got called to the carpet and he did it. And if you've ever been afraid of doing anything in your life, especially if it involved doing something scary where you might have an existential crisis, I mean, this is how you look, folks. I mean, very, very good here.
It's the look of formulating his ideas, like, okay, I'm here, now what? All right.
Exactly.
Right.
So
there's the target.
Yeah. So yeah, I just thought the effects were pretty cool too. It's almost like somewhat of a reminiscent explosion. It was almost like a little kind of trench run nod in a way.
In a way,
going through a tunnel. I mean, the tunnel wasn't shooting back at him.
So it was kind of a trench run nod. Well, when he was in the canyon, it was, and then.
Well, nothing was shooting really at him when he got into the canyon. It's on his approach.
He hit he hit his turbos, went into the tunnel, and then the thing was like when it exploded, it was kind of Death Star-esque in a way.
It was a success for the first time. For this whole cast, we've been through failure after failure, running constantly under threat. It was the first time we were
surviving
allowed to be
by the skin of your teeth.
Right.
I totally agree, Stephen. And they're drinking on duty now. Like, if this is indicative of, like I said, it's this literal and figurative release. I mean, they're drinking on duty at this point. This is like, we're here. We did it, They
got fuel for the fleet for a number of years. That's better situation than when they started with, and they pulled it off.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, the final scene. Final scene is Raquel's favorite character, having a conversation with his angel, and
that's where she explains the prophecy of Pythia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And from her perspective, the serpents were not the illusion that Rosalind had. It was the vipers.
Yep.
So we finally have the grand atheist admitting he is the hand of God.
Yeah.
And there is divine influence behind his actions, and this is where we see a real change in his character, in as far as believing in a higher power, or that there is some kind of divinity that is.
Being a conduit to it is also hubris too.
He's at least,
absolutely.
He's at least finally giving it open thought.
Well, it feeds to his ego as well, just like Script Doctor said.
The hand of God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And once again, where the viewer is reminded, especially the educated viewer is reminded, that the authors are playing with this idea of the death of the old gods, the birth of the new civilization, which would then be the Cylons and monotheism. So this storytelling from this classics perspective, we get rid of the old, we get rid of the pantheon of gods. They no longer matter. Now we have this monotheism and a new civilization on the rise, ready to seize power and slough off the old world and the old gods, and with it the old civilization and the people who believed in it. So we're reinforced with that again as a parting thought.
And it only makes sense for something like the Cylons because they were created by a single individual, so they would only have the concept of one god because of one creator. The other part too, and I want to point this out to anyone in the chat, is that you don't ever want to be a hand of God, because a god will use that hand for dirty things.
Oh boy.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, that is.
Just throwing it out there, like
Fair enough.
it may not just be, self-pleasure, but it also might be, something to the effect of harming others. So like that's why the hand of God is also as a double-edged sword. It's got divine intervention, but also divine consequences.
There are also maybe threats to throw you out of an airlock in your future.
Exactly.
But all in all, like I said, great episode. I'll go ahead and give my final rating now. I mean, obviously, for me, this was a 10 out of 10 episode. I mean, it was my favorite of season 1, as I said before. So, I'm a little biased just because I continue to reiterate this was my favorite. But I enjoyed the Viper action in this episode. I enjoyed some of the subtle nods to different things. I like the little nod to Red October, and kind of the pseudo Star Wars nod with the other Viper action sequences when they were attacking the refinery, and I also kind of liked. To give credit to hi Stig, how you doing? To give credit to Steven's girl Duala, she had that she got to give the order strike one, tear him up.
Yeah, Candace, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Candace McClure.
So yeah, all in all, to me, this episode was just awesome. I loved everything about it. It's a 10 out of 10 in my book. And yeah, I mean, those are my final thoughts on the episode. Raquel, you're up.
I'm sure everybody's heard of the concept of carrots and sticks. Well, I am just all carrots. I absolutely love Battlestar Galactica. I think that today's entertainment sucks. So until further notice, Battlestar Galactica, all episodes get 10 out of 10 for me, unless otherwise noted. So yeah, this is a 10 out of 10 for me. If you haven't watched Battlestar Galactica, I sure hope that you will, because we're talking about some rich and dynamic and wonderful writing, and this show rocks. Get into it, and you'll never regret it. You're gonna have a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. Script doctor.
Well, I really enjoyed this episode. It had a clear, established set of goals, not just with them needing the fuel, but also Starbuck having to come to terms with the fact that she may not always be the pilot out on the front lines, but will maybe one day have to be the leader, leading from behind, as it were. I thought it was a pretty straightforward episode. Fun to watch. I don't think it's like the best so far that we've seen, but it's definitely up there because it does have a good action set piece and it has some stakes and consequences. And I like the fact that it's the first active victory of the Battlestar Galactica against the Cylons since they were invaded. So it's a nice little turning point for the story. And the character work and growth between Adama and Lee and Kara is just beautiful, and it's inspirational. It's stuff that we're lacking in our current media. So luckily we have a show that has some really strong leadership with Ronald D. Moore, and it's lasting so far so good. So yeah, please continue watching with us and contribute in the chat, because we like hearing your opinions, and we like the roundtable discussions that we have about these episodes.
Yeah, and man, our chat is always so awesome. So I appreciate you guys and gals that come in here and every week and support the show, because you know, we love entertaining you guys and bringing unique perspectives to you about the show. And all right, Stephen, go give me your final rating on the episode. Final thoughts.
3 reasons why I love doing this show every week. First off, I love this panel. I love hearing the different perspectives and ideas about this show. And 2, this is one of my favorite shows of all time. And 3, the people in the chat, love you guys. I love all the interactions that we have. This show, this episode, as a part of the season 1, is a 10 to me, and that is because the B plot really doesn't interfere again with everything. You don't go back to Caprica all too much, just enough to know what's going on to inform us what's happening with Sharon and Hilo. This episode is pretty straightforward. It's also the first time that we really get a win. An emotional high, and after all of the different emotions that the other episodes have built up for us, and all the previous character development that has led us to the point of where we're at, seeing every interaction between the characters in this episode, the ones that are highlighted, are very meaningful because of the well done character development that we have had thus far. It also the moment between Adama and his son. That resonates with me. I love seeing that. I love the feeling between them. As I said before, had a difficult relationship with my father. So to see a father and son who have never had a great relationship bonding the way that they do and showing the type of caring that Bill has for his son Lee, love that. I love seeing again Cara Thrace. She's like Drew has said before, she's always accused of being this Mary Sue back in the day. She's not. She got taken down a notch. She's not able to go out there and do the best that she can do. But in place of doing personally the best what she feels that she can do, she ends up becoming a planner. She helps to orchestrate this idea, this crazy idea, this first offensive that they have no choice but to do in order to secure energy for their ships. And so I like seeing her being put in another position and still excelling. Love that character. Love the actress. I love everybody on this show. But basically, the emotional high of seeing this crew, who we have gone through all of these ups and downs with throughout this season, finally having a win. Finally being able to celebrate, something positive has happened as it pertains to what we have seen thus far in this season, in this series. That's what makes it a 10 for me. I love it. It's straightforward. It's got a lot of action. You get to see Lee Adama shine in a moment that was well deserved because of all the different doubts that he has had about himself, and we'll see in the future, and that will resonate forward. 10 out of 10. I love this episode, always have, and I was glad to relive it so that I could again remember how much I did enjoy it.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, let's go.
Thank you, Lady Mist. Sorry to interrupt you. Thank you, Lady Mist. Thank you so much. Good night to you as well. Thank you to everyone who came. I forgot to thank everyone. Everyone, thank you for coming tonight.
And Raquel, if you have any projects you want to plug, go right ahead.
No, I'm on Orville Nation sometimes, and now I'm here, and I love it, and I think it's very flattering that anybody would want to hear what I have to say. So thank you so much for your ear, and thank you so much for your ideas. I think you're all wonderful, everyone who came here tonight, as well as my esteemed panel. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and thank you for everyone who came.
Raquel's not a nugget anymore, you guys. She's earning those lieutenant's bars.
She's our hot dog now.
Yep. She is. Yeah, she came right in. No, she's Cat. Except she don't die.
No stims.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
So Script Doctor, go ahead, plug your channel.
All right. Yeah, I'm the Script Doctor. I got a YouTube channel.
You're mighty white.
He's not as white. He got rid of the white background.
Yeah, I got a new background here. Also, if you take a look at Sam Witwer in this episode, he's way more paler than I am.
Yeah, he is, man. He's like kind of looking like powder, bro.
He's on them stems.
Yeah, something's happened there. But yeah, I just dropped yesterday my episode 6 review of Picard. The episode 7 review has been recorded, so I just got to tweak that and then start editing it. So that might be Saturday. It might drop Saturday, and then I'm gonna try and spend most of my Monday doing episode 8, and that's gonna be a doozy. Yeah, it's just 2 more episodes left after that, and maybe I'll stop. Then I have to prep myself for Discovery.
Then you keep watching those, and your eyes bleed like you have Ebola.
We'll get through it together, guys. We'll get through
it. It's. I just look at it as a learning experience of what not to do, and I try to pass on as much knowledge as I can for any potential writers to take a look at this example and try and find some value of it.
Love it.
God bless you.
Yeah. Hey, every great work and every bad work is a learning experience. So
that's true. All right, so Stephen,
what are you doing? Tell us about your projects. What are you writing right now? Are you writing any short stories? Are you working on anything that we should know about? Maybe even something that you don't want to show us?
Well, I am about a hair away from getting my first The Phantom Menace Volume 1 printed and shipped out to my backers. Thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate that. Working on The Phantom Menace Volume 2 at the moment. I am working with several other YouTubers, some names you may know. Mecha42, Doom Overlord DVD, Lord Doomcock, Stephanie Janicek, Smuggler's Cantina, Kiri Howard, John Talks, and The Gospel According to Mark with a C. They've all kind of come together to help me with Volume 2. Volume 1 was how we got to where we were a year ago. Volume 2 is about these creators, the channels that they made, their being the voices for us, and as far as how we feel about entertainment. I'm also working on the 3rd book in my science fiction series. Not sure when that'll be out. It'll probably be about a year from now.
And then Phantom Menace Volume 3. Who's gonna be writing the foreword for that bad boy?
Phantom Menace Volume 3. Actually, there is a chapter that was written by Flip Doubt that I'm looking at. So I think that the Phantom Collective maybe helped me to work on the Phantom Menace Volume 3. Not sure. It's kind of up in the air, going through one project at a time. Got a lot of material.
And I'll probably throw something in that one too.
Hey man, you're always welcome to. If you have some material to add, I'd love to have you in there. I mean, it's a community project. It's a celebration of our community. So it's not just my words that are being lent, my perspective and my documentation of what has happened with the pushback known as the Fandom Menace to entertainment properties and the people running them and how they are using them as a bludgeon, as a cudgel to hit us over the head with their socio-political propaganda and perspectives. So it's a community project, honestly. And my science fiction, I'm kind of getting I'm reworking it. I had a couple books out on the market. I pulled them off. I'm taking a look at them because of the inspiration of things like Battlestar Galactica, which are so well put together.
Oh,
and I will just, now that I'm years removed and I have a little more experience of what I'm doing, you look back at your older works and you go, I could have worded that better.
I do that every couple months.
So it's been years. I put these out in 2012. So, so I've got a little bit more of a learned eye, and I'm going to work on those, and hopefully I'll have more information on that in a few months. I also occasionally write over at chaoscentral.com, And my YouTube channel, Author Stephen Walton. I do reviews on Picard. I have the Fourth Wave on Saturdays. We used to do them on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Now we're just doing it on Saturday. So the earlier show is going to be run by myself and Sporky News Podcast. And then the Fourth Wave late edition is going to be run by Bear Nerd Fun and Final Death Star later on for the West Coast peeps. And we look forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much. That's about it.
Yeah, and as always, folks, you can read me on boundingintocomics.com. I apologize. Since I got done with that convention over last weekend, and this week I've been fighting off like some serious fatigue issues and stuff. Fingers crossed. I don't think I'm sick, but I'm not ruling that out. But this has been like hanging with me the past probably 3.5 days, and I'm mildly concerned. I'll say that. But
did you get a test?
Yeah.
It's free by the CDC now. They just got it officiated.
Yeah.
And no matter what, just take care of yourself. No, your bottom line is please take good care of yourself.
Yes.
Yep.
But I do apologize to those of you out there who read my stuff on a daily and weekly basis on Bounding. I know I haven't had anything up this week, so I appreciate your patience. And of course, you can catch me on my channel right here. And every Thursday we have the Pegasus Actual podcast for you. And it's really the highlight of my week because I love these people on the panel. And I love you guys. So there's no better company in the whole wide world. So.
Love you too, brother.
We love you too.
And real quick, speaking of people not feeling well, Stig Kenobi in the chat, he does have the coronavirus and he is doing well. He said he has a fever and he's sneezing, got some chest congestion, and he also threatened to go to his local pool and fart to spread it around. So please, if you live in Norway, don't go to your local pool, okay?
Oh, I hope he has a top 5 about that.
Jesus. Oh God!
Don't tell Script Doctor's Neighborhood Watch.
Oh, they will kidnap him and they will pamper him and take care of him to full health.
Will. Little tap on the
man! All right, so remember, guys, take care, take precautions, be safe, and until next week, hashtag Klein Boxy. All right. Good night.
Yes, so say we all.
So say we
Good
all.
night, everybody.
So say we all.